So let's get started on our last session of the day. And as we're wrapping this up, we wanted to give you an overview of the work that's been going on. You've had several conversations today around Project Success and what Project Success has been doing. You've heard several of our panelists talk about that. And so we wanted to give you sort of a brief overview this afternoon about the project and where we are going forward. As General Brown said earlier today, he will be addressing more specifically in more detail on tomorrow about Project Success and some of the new initiatives that we've got going. But the information today is sort of an overview of what's happened in the last couple of years with the project. And so I'm going to ask Ms. Katrina Turner, who is the Service Director for the Operations and Performance Prime Management Services within Federal Student Aid, which is the area that provides oversight and monitoring for our guarantee agencies, if she would come up and do a sort of an overall Project Success overview, and then she'll also be providing an overview for one of our guarantee agencies who is not able to be here today. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, and thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm hoping that you guys are learning a lot, experiencing a lot, and that you will enjoy the conference this year. We welcome you, and we hope that it's informative. For this session, it's on a look into the future, and I have with me on the guest panel, I have Brian Ashton, who is VP for Community Investment and Government Affairs with the Trellis Group, which is also one of our guarantee agencies. And also I have Ms. Paula Crew, who is VP of Student Success and Outreach with ECMC, another guarantor. And as mentioned, Beth Erickson, it says Amy Kerwin, but it's Beth Erickson, was not able to be with us today. She represents us from Ascendium, formerly Great Lakes. She was snowed in Minneapolis, so I will just read through her slides and try to fill in as much as possible. Project Success, a big program in federal student aid. Just to give you a little bit of some background is a couple of years ago, this program came to us as a way of reaching out to minority servant institutions in providing different types of opportunity, access, and activities, and to support MSIs and the students that they educate and empower. So with that, we developed Project Success, aimed at strengthening student outcomes and institutional performances at the MSI. Basically, Project Success pairs guarantee agencies, and currently, under the new structure, it has been extended through the fiscal year 2022. And under that program, we have 3 participating guarantee agencies. I just mentioned Trellis, Ascendium, and ECMC, who are going to be working with identified schools in this Project Success activity. Currently, for some schools, again, this started in 2017, and so this is basically our second phase of the pilot. So there may be some folks in here that are already participating in Project Success, and for those that are not, there's a new opportunity for additional schools to be participating. Our objective is to improve institutional performance and student outcomes at minority servant institutions. Our focus for this second pilot is improving persistence, graduation, cohort default, and loan repayment rates at targeted MSIs at the lowest possible cost. MSIs represent 686 institutions who enroll in approximately 2.8 million students receiving financial aid. As I mentioned, Project Success has been extended for another 3 years through 2022, with plans to expand the program from 144 schools to additional 300 schools. With the extension, additional services will focus on career exploration, tutoring and advising, and integrating student-facing interventions in the mobile app. So also a big component of this is that participating schools do not pay for services provided by the guarantee agency. As you will find out during the presentations, each guarantee agency will offer varying programs and activities aimed at working with your schools, identifying any deficiencies. And what I mean by deficiencies, areas that could be improved, areas where you may not have the resources to commit to and be able to persevere. And so the guarantee agencies will be offering their services to assist. And they will be assigning staff to work with the GAs during the designated program. So without further ado, I will pass this on and I'll let Brian give a presentation with Trellis. There, and then you just pick up.
Awesome, thank you. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? I can say this is the first time that I've been standing between Exploring Reno and people, so hopefully we won't keep you from Reno for too long. As Katrina mentioned, my name is Brian Ashton. I serve as the project lead with Trellis, and we've had the distinct pleasure of working with multiple campuses in this room over the last 3 years and have been so grateful and appreciative of the partnership that we've had through that initial pilot phase. Well, there's also numerous institutions I know that are in this room that are in our expansion footprint and in kind of that next phase, and so we look forward to the relationships and working through kind of pilot phase 2.0, if you will, of Project Success. Wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the way that Trellis views Project Success, and as Katrina mentioned, there's some differences between the 3 guarantee agencies in our programs that were based on the initial proposals that we put forward to the department. So you'll see some variation between the 3 of us, but there are some commonalities and certainly some new additions that the department's looking at that'll give a little bit more commonality to the program moving forward. As we look at our footprint for Trellis in particular over the past 3 years, we've worked with 40 institutions in 5 states, and you'll see we sort of have the Southeast, if you will, or elements of the Southeast with Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Alabama, and Georgia. Within those 40 institutions, we have over 300,000 students that are actively enrolled at any given time in that cohort, 27 HBCUs, 10 HSIs, and 3 PBIs really making up the institutions that we serve in that initial pilot 1.0 phase. We group our services through Project Success into 2 distinct buckets. And so, as was mentioned in sort of the opening, we look at this as a way to address student persistence, graduation, and ultimately loan repayment or cohort default rate support for students who are currently enrolled, but also into the future. And so we provide student-facing services as the way to address students that are enrolled on campus now and are enrolled in your institutions at this point. We use a variety of different tools to deploy these services, and in particular, many of them are performed through our teams in a little north of Austin in Round Rock, Texas. But we have mobile-first messaging campaigns, and so we talked a little bit about this earlier. How do we get information to students? We see low open rates on emails, and so we're able to do outbound calling and texting to students to help connect them with different registration deadlines and different challenges that they may be facing. We work to help students through the FAFSA completion process and ultimately to navigate the verification support process as well. We're able to provide one-on-one advising to students to help them to talk through some of those challenges that may not be within the bandwidth of a financial aid office. We also help with stop-out engagement, and so you heard an example from the Alamo colleges earlier in General Brown's remarks, but we take over the outbound contact with students who have stopped out of your institution, and in particular, from there, we're able to provide one-on-one advisement for how to re-enroll, and so that looks different on every campus. The Alamo district, as you heard, was able to do some balance forgiveness as a part of their board strategy. Other campuses have been able to make that look different ways, but what we know is, as was mentioned earlier, in Texas, we have nearly 4 million students that have some college and no degree, and those numbers are comparable in other states around the country. And so that idea of getting students to re-engage because their college journey is no longer linear is a very important part of the process for student success and graduation. We work with campuses on summer melt, so making sure that those students who, for a 4-year institution, those who in April say that they're going to show up in the fall, making sure that we keep constant contact with them and help them to actually get enrolled in the fall and show up on campus. Again, we do that through a variety of mediums, including the outbound calling and outbound texting to those students, as well as one-on-one advising where we pair those students with a trained coach to help them navigate that. We do default prevention for students, so helping you to keep cohort default rates low, as well as some in-person and online financial literacy options for your currently enrolled students. In addition to that, we also provide institutional support services, and so this is really forward-looking. We know that these are going to have maybe less of an impact on some of the short-term persistent rates, but we think that they're important to help create some of the culture change necessary to drive an institution towards student success outcomes. As a part of this, we have a research and analytical services team that does a variety of services for campuses. They're able to perform a CDR analysis to see which students are most at risk for default and help to intervene with those students. We do exit surveys to understand why students left, and we bring that information back and help to facilitate campus conversations about why students left. And even though the sample size may be somewhat small, it's shocking to see the trends that emerge, and we're able to help the campus to understand what changes we may be able to make to help keep students enrolled. We do retention profiles where we take your institutional data as well as National Student Clearinghouse data and survey data to help put together a profile of why students leave and to provide that as a presentation to your leadership teams and your boards. And we also conduct an annual student financial wellness survey to help you get at some numbers on campus around how many students are experiencing food and housing insecurity, how many students are challenged getting to and from campus on a daily basis, how many students are at risk of dropping out because they're unable to pay. And these data points can help to inform some of the campus policy and procedure that you may be working to implement. We also do a variety of staff and faculty professional development, including customer service training, retention best practices, student financial wellness briefings, communication to students trainings. All of these are things that we're able to do to help campus faculty in particular understand the realities of students. We found these to be particularly impactful in working with adjunct faculty and faculty who may be coming to and from campus with less regularity than your full-time faculty to help understand what are some of the major barriers to student retention, knowing that they're oftentimes the front lines who students seek out when they're having concerns about their ability to remain enrolled. We also do a series of work around institutional policy, procedure, and process consulting, and so this can be enrollment management, strategic planning, and dashboarding, so looking at what are your enrollment pipelines, how are we able to enhance different portions of that pipeline, right, where may we see students that are not showing up to campus, and how do we help to address that? Because we know having a stable enrollment is one of the biggest keys to being able to invest in student success and student support services. If we can't meet that baseline of enrollment, we're going to always have challenges in maintaining those student support services. We talked a little bit about stop-out engagement, but the last one here is we do communication campaign development. And so we spend a lot of time on campus working with campuses to think about what messages are we sending to students when. How many of you are confident that there are not 3 offices that are sending messages to students in one day on your campus? Dr. Warwick is the only one, I think, in the room that raised their hand. But oftentimes what we see, and this ties into summer melt, we'll see where a campus will send a housing message, a payment message, and a registration message all in one week and then not communicate with that student for 3 or 4 weeks after, right? When in reality, we could have dripped those messages to help get that information to a student in a timely manner. And so we're able to bring together the campus and maybe make some tough calls that are a little bit more difficult to do politically if you're working on campus on a daily basis. As a part of this, to give a little bit of context for scope in the initial pilot, we've worked with over 50,000 students in the Student Financial Wellness Survey. We've had over 52,000 students complete online financial education modules. And this year, we will surpass over 1 million outbound text messages sent to students, and we also do inbound on that as well. So close to almost 1.5 million communications with students. On average, on a monthly basis, we work with almost 7,000 students who are in grace, so beginning the period of entering their loan repayment, and almost a little over 20,000 students who are delinquent on their loans to help prevent them from defaulting and hitting that cohort default rate. Our virtual coaching and outreach team has worked with over 40,000 students through outreach calls, and those numbers are growing exponentially every month. And we've worked with over 500 students on goal setting and budgeting through our coaching services. Wanted to make a little bit more of an impact conversation through some case studies of what we've done over the last few years. One of these examples relates to text message outreach. And so when we talk through these case studies, it's important to note that we can't necessarily go and say that because of this intervention this happened. What we do know from these scenarios that we're providing is that the only thing that changed year over year is the intervention that we're talking about. And so we didn't run an RCT, we didn't do some of the more robust assessment in that form, but we were able to see some of these results. So we did a text message campaign for a large 4-year private institution. And we increased summer enrollment by over 2.5%, which was 600 students from prior year, by communicating and doing a series of communications targeted at that summer enrollment period. We worked to help communicate fall 2018 housing, which we increased. We added 56 more students than we had in the previous year, getting that campus to a 97% occupancy on their housing. Traditionally, this campus had sat around 90% occupancy, and there was always a little bit of a budget issue of trying to get that closed to be able to have full occupancy or close to full occupancy in their housing units. We texted about UNCF scholarships to these students, and we saw a 31% increase year over year in applications. And we increased attendance at a career fair by over 41% in the prior year. One of the reasons why we present this case study and talk about this is because this campus also had an electronic CRM that they were using for email outreach. Their open rates on emails were under 25%. And so their click rates were even lower than that, but their open rates were under 25%. For the outbound messages that we're seeing open rates that exceed 80%. So we know that the information is getting to the students, and we're able to help provide some of those successful nudges for behaviors that we know are key for them to complete their college degree. Another example here relates to a payment deadline. We were working with a open access community college where we had a registration campaign, and we sent text to a little over 2,000 students, and made phone calls to about 2,700 other students, so about little under 5,000 students total in that sample. Year over year, it was just about a 2,000 student improvement in the number of students who remained registered from one term to the other. And so purely just nudging about the idea of when those those registration deadlines were due and the payment deadlines were due was resulting in higher behavior being taken earlier in the process. So more students not only were financially cleared earlier, but they were able to be enrolled earlier, and the campus was able to set their course calendar and their course schedule a little bit earlier than normal as a result of that. We worked with the community college campus on a stop-out enrollment campaign, which resulted in 113 students re-enrolling in campus that had stopped out previously. And so, again, strong momentum in being able to help those students to re-enroll on campus after they've stopped out. So those are just a couple examples of ways that we've deployed some of the services on the student-facing side as a part of Project Success. I'll let Paula come up and talk about some of the services that ECMC has deployed as well, but just wanted to reiterate that we've had a great relationship with many campuses in the room over the first iteration of Project Success, and we're really looking forward to the continued growth of the services and the campuses that we serve in the next iteration.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to spend a few minutes with you this afternoon talking about one of our favorite projects, Project Success. I would like to acknowledge the Office of Federal Student Aid for putting this session on the agenda. Again, it's one of our most favorite things that we do as a guarantee agency, and we're thrilled that our agreement for the project has been extended for an additional 3 years. I wanted to first talk about where we are with Project Success in terms of where our colleges are. So our assignment included in phase 1, 52 colleges. Those colleges are in 10 states and in the District of Columbia. The breakdown is 26 HBCUs, 10 HSIs, 3 AAN, AP ISIs, and 13 PBIs. Representing just over 330,000 total student enrollment. I have on my team 3 outreach managers who work directly with the 52 colleges. And I'm pleased to announce that in the room today, I think we have 8 Project Success colleges in our assignment, including Washington Adventist University, who General Brown called out in his initial remarks. So thank you so much for all of you, all of the colleges in our assignment who are here. So I wanted to highlight the services that ECMC has been offering these past 3 years. We began our work officially on February 22nd of 2017, although the months leading up to that date, we were busy curating a set of services that we thought would be incredibly helpful to our assigned colleges. And so I'll start with, I think, everyone's favorite, which is the Emergency Aid Program. Just as you all know it to be, these are small amounts of small grant amounts up to $500 each to help students with unforeseen financial obstacles. And so through the program, we've dispersed to our 52 colleges over $800,000, and of that, around $697,000 has been used by our participating colleges. So we know that's a fan favorite, and so wanted to highlight that first. One of the services that we think is incredibly helpful in building capacity is NASFA University. So those of you who are familiar with NASFA U know that it's training on Title IV financial aid topics. There are 16 topics in total. And so we offered to each of our colleges the opportunity to have their staff members to attend NASFA U courses. And so we're pleased to announce that 96 separate and distinct credentials were earned through NASFA U over the course of the past 3 years. Another capacity building service that we offered, it was ECMC's Persist training. So we developed several years ago a curriculum that we bring to colleges and universities nationwide. And what we do is we bring our trainers to the campus, and we invite anyone on campus who is interested in attending. And the training is all around providing strategies for keeping students in school and not dropping out. And so we brought our Persist training to many of our Project Success colleges. And I can provide one example that we love to talk about, and I know they're not here, but we took the training to Fisk University in Tennessee, and the president there invited, actually mandated, everyone on campus to attend the training. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. From the highest levels of the administration to support staff all around campus. And so some people were not happy that they had to attend, but at the end of the day-long training, everyone was very energized around the fact that they all got to participate and hear about ways that it takes a village to help students to stay in school. And so we were especially pleased about that, and we plan to continue those efforts in the extension of the program. It also provided us an opportunity to talk about our Project Success services to everyone on the campus. So we found, after doing a couple of the trainings at our Project Success colleges, that some people on campus who came to the trainings didn't know a whole lot about the project. And so it was a great opportunity to generate excitement campus-wide for the project. And again, we plan to do that with many of our colleges as we continue in the second phase of Project Success. Default management is a key component of our offerings as well. We find that students who receive counseling during their grace period are 30% more likely to remain in a repayment current status. And so we think that's pretty significant, and we've helped over 127,000 borrowers to be cured on their student loans. We also offer an online financial literacy option where students can go online and do courses and watch videos and read articles and play games and do a variety of financial education related activities. And we've had over 72,000 courses completed using online financial literacy. Another service that's one of our favorites and was very well received was a skills assessment and remediation service. And we were able to place over 3,800 students in appropriate levels of math and reading courses based on those assessments. And then over 3,900 students benefited from targeted remediation in certain specific academic areas. We also offered an electronic financial aid letter. We changed it here to College Financing Plan based on the new name, and I cannot make those words come together appropriately yet, but I am working on it. And so this electronic financial aid award letter is a mobile-ready solution for many schools who offered it to be able to give their students an upgrade, if you will, to the financial aid award letter. And it allowed schools to bring in financial literacy to that award letter in order to increase the students' understanding of their financial aid and their student borrowing and financial education in general. And over 20,000 students benefited from that. We also provided some very high-touch FAFSA completion and verification MELT activities. We staffed, along with several of our schools, some live FAFSA completion and verification MELT activities and provided materials for those events. Another service was degree roadmaps, which provided students with a clear path to degree completion. And that resulted in close to 12,000 students who were able to map out their curriculum appropriately in order to reduce their time to completion and degree cost of degree completion. And then I'll end with the favorite of all services that we offered. I believe every single school, with maybe the exception of one, implemented the Myers-Briggs Super Strong Interest Inventory. This is a mobile-ready solution where you take an assessment, and this assessment determines your interests, which then leads to help with determining your academic and ultimately career path. And so over 33,000 students took that career assessment interest inventory and were able to, it resulted in increased retention. I have a few examples I wanted to highlight that because of Project Success, we had some very positive impact. There are others, but I think these are so significant that I wanted to mention them to you. So one of our HSI community colleges made this Super Strong Interest Inventory mandatory for all of their students during their new student orientation. And that resulted in 80% of their undeclared students declaring majors. And that particular community college has now implemented the Super Strong Interest Inventory as part of their regular offerings for new students required. And so that's resulted in a very positive change on that campus. We have one HBCU that, based on our online financial literacy offerings, completely revamped their campus financial literacy efforts, and they now require financial literacy completion of every entering student. And then at one of our PBIs, this particular school determined that many of their majors that they offer required an excessive number of credit hours. So they examined all of their majors using one of the tools that we offered in Project Success. And as a result, they reduced those majors to 120 credit hours, thus reducing time to completion for students and ultimately student loan debt burdens. So we felt that that was a very significant positive impact for that particular school and others as well. I also included a few testimonials, which I won't bore you with reading, but certainly feel free to read those. One of our, as I mentioned, Washington Adventist University is here and was called out in the very beginning by General Brown. And so we think so highly of this particular school. They took essentially every single service that we offered in Project Success, and they implemented the service on their campus. And as Jeanette Jeanette's quote says here, it was a real catalyst for change on their campus. So as you can see, we offered a number of different services. We're truly excited about the extension of Project Success. We will continue to curate our services for the extension, and I'm super excited that there are some faces in this room who we're not yet working with, but I'm pretty sure are on our assignment list for Phase 2. So we look forward to working with you, and again, thank you to Federal Student Aid for this project.
Okay, as I mentioned, Beth Erickson cannot be with us today. She snowed in. However, I will go through and highlight some of her slides as she had pulled together this presentation representing Ascendium, which is the third guarantor participating in Project Success. Ascendium, formerly known as Great Lakes Higher Education Corporation and Affiliates, is a nonprofit that helps learners reach the post-secondary education and career goals that matter to them. Like the other two guarantors, Ascendium was assigned certain institutions, and from the first pilot, they had 35 tribal colleges and universities and 7 HBCUs. Their strategy is evidence-based programs and services that build trust, foster institutional change, leverage the power of data, develop and implement action plans, and improve community collaboration. With all of this, they have increased persistence, completion, successful repayment of student loans, and increased institutional capacity to achieve these goals. Again, emergency aid is one of the top initiatives or plus items of Project Success. As such, emergency aid does help students cover unforeseen emergency expenses, which if left unaddressed could cause students to drop out. In 2018, Ascendium had 40 schools participating, and they were 40 TCUs and HBCUs, and they awarded 1,739 emergency grants on behalf of the students, which represented $725,000 awarded by colleges on behalf of the students. With that, 83% of fall 2018 TCU emergency aid grant recipients graduated or re-enrolled for spring 19. Also, Ascendium offered paid internship program. Paid internships level the playing field by paying students for internships that provide them with meaningful work experiences on campus or in the community. Again, in 2018, Ascendium had 37 participating schools consisting of HBCUs and TCUs. They had 851 students complete an internship, and the student wages earned was over $1 million. Big, significant accomplishment. Again, 88% of the fall 2018 TCU and HBCU interns graduated or re-enrolled for spring 19. Ascendium GradReady and Cohort Catalyst. GradReady, which is a financial literacy tool that helps students learn about money management. They also have a Cohort Catalyst. They had over 1,000 new student online accounts, and they had over 4,528 students' accounts were cured from being default prevention and rehab solutions. Some of their other strategies include the Carnegie Math Pathways program and also Achieving the Dream. And you can read through those. They had 33 TCUs participating in the ATD network, all working to address student success priorities as outlined in their 2018 Student Success Action Plans. Some of their success stories include the Carnegie Math Pathways Program, as well as their paid internship. And these are just testimonies from different colleges. And again, that's the Q&As, but those are some of the highlights for Ascendium. And again, sorry that she could not be here, but I do know that they are working hard, just as the other two guarantee agencies, to provide the type of activities and programs aimed at student success, helping to reduce their burden, helping to reduce costs, and increase retention and ultimately graduation rates. So with that said, I do encourage all of the schools here, as any other schools, that if there is interest, let us know. And please, if you've been assigned to work with one of these guarantee agencies, make it an effort to do so. Let them come in, see what they can do, and encourage any type of upgrades or new ways of doing something. Just kind of sometimes reinventing can help to increase a lot of positive outcomes at your school. So thank you, and we hope that you are encouraged in the fact that Project Success will be continuing for 2022. Are there any questions anyone may have?
I'm assuming, and by the way, thank you for the presentation, but I'm assuming that the next phase of the process, that the colleges have not been selected that would be a part of that. And I guess my question would be, what are the parameters? What are you looking for in terms of the colleges that will be involved with this second tier?
The colleges are identified internally through the Department of Education. And once they are identified, then we contact one of the three guarantee agencies and assign the schools. We work with our compliance area. We look for schools that may have an abundance of some type of issues going on, where they have increasing cohort default rates, where they have low retention rates. There's a number of factors that we go through our vetting process. And we try to rank each, we go through a ranking process to identify the schools. We want to make it a point to get around to all the schools, but as you know, we are assigning them the best that we can with the data that we have, but hopefully we will have resources that we will be able to touch all MSIs and all of the other identified HBCUs, PBIs, TCUs, and all of those identified. There is talks that we're looking to expand the program, perhaps bring in other additional guarantee agencies that can assist. But again, that's a process that we're vetting through internally at the department and looking at our resources.
I don't have a question, it's more so a comment. I'd like to thank the Department of Education, Dr. Harold, and also thank Ashley, who we've been working with. I think you all started probably in 2017 when I was named president. And of course, you all came to Alabama State University, have worked with us. And I'd just like to say thank you for the information that you provide to help us to change systems at the university as we continue to improve. So I just wanted to comment. I wasn't paid to say that.
Thank you for saying that.
But definitely encourage any other institution, because definitely providing those resources. I mean, the emergency fund is one thing, but to drill down into the various areas through the survey of our students to determine what's actually happening with them, those are things that help us drive policy at Alabama State University. So I just wanted to thank you for what you do. We're happy that you continue on. We're happy that we're still a partner with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question over here.
Will you be looking at some of the colleges in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic and Northeast states, maybe New Jersey and New York? We need help too. And in Florida.
Okay. Yep.
State, we did.
And again, now that we're able to continue this program and expand, we're looking to expand to an additional 300 schools. So you might be on that list. I don't have that list in front of me, but yes. Any other questions? All right, again, thank you very much, and we appreciate, and especially your comment. And again, I definitely encourage you to stay tuned and definitely promote Project Success. And if you have been tapped right around in this next cycle, and again, we're hoping to expand, that you would definitely make it a major priority to engage and help to increase the positive outcomes at your schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Give these guys a hand. Those comments lead right into my ending comments of the day, as we were talking about the questions about, well, am I on the list? Am I going to be on the list? And as GradReady has said, we are working through that process now. But one of the reasons you want to be here tomorrow, particularly for our luncheon, is our CEO, General Mark Brown, will be talking more specifically about Project Success, about his goals for the future, and what he sees as going forward, which may shed a little bit more light in terms of how we're going to move forward, hint, hint. And so you may want to make sure that you're here during that. I know you'll be here in the morning because we've got an exciting compliance session that's going on in the morning that starts at the very first thing in the morning. We really want to make that and join us for that piece in the morning. That'll be starting. Secretary DeVos, the U.S. Secretary of the Department of Education, will be joining us at about 10 a.m. in the morning, and she will stop by, will share some comments, as well as entertain any questions you may have about the Department of Education's role in going forward in support of higher education in general and minority-serving institutions. Undersecretary Delegate Diane Jones will also be one of our luncheon speakers, and we'll be talking about the overall general view of higher education from the department level in terms of some of the priorities that we have there. As I said, General Brown will be talking more specifically about his vision for keeping the promise and what that means. And as I can say to you, Project Success is a huge part of his vision going forward for keeping the promise. And then finally, Mrs. Robin Miner, one of our Deputy Chief Operating Officers, will be here to talk about a new organizational structure that we're proposing that's going to provide a different kind of partnership with institutions and presidents specifically. So you don't want to miss those pieces. As I said, the compliance piece in the morning, which will be, we have to talk about compliance, folks. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. We have to get some compliance in there in the morning, but it'll be early in the morning, right after your first coffee, all right? And so then as soon as we get into that, then we'll get into the conversations around with the secretary, with the luncheon, and then tomorrow afternoon, we have an exciting session coming up. Chancellor Tom Raleigh, is the Chancellor here? He was here earlier today. Tom Raleigh, the Chancellor of the Nevada higher education system. Nevada just introduced a 6-step student success system about 2 years ago. He will be here tomorrow afternoon to talk about some of the results of what they've seen so far from the Nevada system, and he'll be bringing, from my standpoint, really some of the most important people we need to listen to about that process, and that's students. How about that? You know, I love to hear from students. I know you do too, because they tend to tell us what we need to hear as opposed to what we want to hear. And so we have 4 students who will also be joining us tomorrow afternoon. So we've got a full day tomorrow. Thank you for hanging in here today. And I see one of my great supporters back in the back is going, hey, Mr. Coles, come on up, sir.
One thing I wanted to remind you, you'll be all receiving an evaluation form today for today's sessions. So please fill out those evaluation forms. That will help us as we plan the conference for another year. You'll get evaluations today for today's session and also a couple of times tomorrow for those sessions tomorrow.
And how will they be getting those?
You'll be getting them electronically on the email that you provided at registration.
So when you see that email that comes out, don't think it's department asking you for anything, any money or anything, okay? You've done nothing wrong. Don't delete the email, okay? All right? Hold on one second. Dr. Lawson is raising a question. Yeah, all the presentations will be available at the end of the conference, which ends this week. Everything will be available on the site. You'll be able to go to the Federal Student Aid 2019 conference site, and all the presentations will be there. Everything that you saw today, as well as the presentations for the conference. Any other questions? You guys have been great troopers in getting here to Reno, staying here this afternoon for the session. We know you'll want to join us tomorrow morning. As I said, we've got an exciting session about some compliance things that you, as presidents, need to know. We don't want you to learn how to make award Pell Grants, but we do want you to understand that people who are supposed to be doing that know what they're doing, because that does keep you from having to deal with some of the issues that go along with that. And we want you to be able to have a checklist so you can make sure that the things that need to be happening on your campus are happening, okay? So, I'm not gonna do any Pell Grants. We want you to understand that, and also to understand how you can use some of those Title IV resources to address many of the other student success issues. I know the Secretary very well, but he talked about the new work study initiative. We talked about internships, and I'm sorry, I know we're in a roll, but I got 5 minutes. You guys are way smarter than I. The literature is very clear. There's nothing more powerful than paid internship programs in helping students to be successful. Very clear. And so many of you may be aware of the experimental work study program situation we have going on now, where you can apply for additional work study funds, and also the flexibility that exists now within the work study program to pay internships to even for-profit entities. So those are things that you as a president need to be aware of, and to know that you've got tools already on your campus to be able to use to help address some of these issues. So those are the kind of things we'll be talking about, as well as I said, the Secretary will be joining us, as well as those 3 luncheon speakers who will be each bringing distinctive messages about how we at FSA want to partner more with you as presidents and senior administrators to get the job done and getting students to be more successful, okay? Have a great rest of the evening. Win some money and bring it to us in the morning.